The air in the room was thick with unspoken words, heavy with the weight of our 7-year marriage. My husband, Ken, was a good man, or so I told myself. He was reliable, steady, and the father of our 5-year-old daughter, but passion. That had evaporated years ago, leaving behind a polite, sterile silence. We were roommates who shared a child and a mortgage, not lovers who shared a life. I craved a spark, a touch that didn't feel like a chore, a look that held more than just quiet resignation. I found that spark in the most unexpected of places, my daughter's karate class. Alex was one of the instructors, a man whose energy seemed to fill the entire dojo. He moved with a grace and confidence that was captivating. His smile was easy, his laughter infectious, and when his eyes met mine, I felt a jolt, a current of electricity I hadn't felt in a decade. It started innocently enough. We chatted after class while our kids played. We talked about everything and nothing, our dreams, our disappointments, the mundane details of our lives that suddenly seemed fascinating when shared with each other. Our conversations soon moved from the dojo to text messages, late-night calls after our spouses were asleep. With Alex, I felt seen. He listened, he understood, he made me laugh. He reminded me of the woman I used to be before I became just a wife and a mother. I knew it was dangerous, this tightrope I was walking. I loved my daughter more than anything, and the thought of hurting her, of shattering her world, was unbearable. I tried to pull back, to create distance, but the pull towards Alex was magnetic, irresistible. One evening, after a particularly strained dinner with Ken, where the silence was louder than any argument, my phone buzzed. It was Alex. "Meet me," he texted, "just for a drive." "I need to see you." I should have said no. Every rational part of my brain screamed it. But my heart, starved and lonely, whispered yes. We drove to a lookout point overlooking the city lights. The car was a small, intimate bubble, separating us from the rest of the world. He turned to me, his eyes searching mine in the dim glow of the dashboard. "I can't stop thinking about you," he said, his voice a low whisper. He leaned in, and his lips met mine. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry, a collision of two people who had been starving for connection. In that moment, all my carefully constructed walls crumbled. All the guilt, all the reasons I shouldn't, they all faded away, replaced by an overwhelming wave of pure, unadulterated feeling. I was no longer Ken's wife or a mother. I was just a woman, alive and desired. We pulled apart, both breathless. The reality of what we'd just done crashed down on me. "I have to go," I stammered, my hands trembling as I opened the car door. He didn't try to stop me. The next few days were torture. Guilt gnawed at me every time I looked at Ken or tucked my daughter into bed. I avoided Alex's texts, his calls. I told myself it was a mistake, a one-time lapse in judgment. But I was lying to myself. A week later, he caught me after karate class. He pulled me aside, his expression serious. "We need to talk," he said, leading me to a quiet corner of the parking lot. "I'm sorry if I pushed you the other night. I just ... I feel something for you I haven't felt in a very long time." He took a step closer, and my heart hammered against my ribs. "I want to be with you," he said, his voice barely audible. He reached out, his hand gently cupping my cheek. His thumb traced my jawline, sending shivers down my spine. He leaned in again. The first time, in the car, he had tried to force it, an act born of desperation. This time was different. It was a question, an invitation. There was no force, no pressure. There was only a shared, unspoken understanding. And this time, I didn't resist. I leaned into his touch, closing the small gap between us. That was the beginning of the end, or perhaps the beginning of a new beginning. My affair with Alex continued for months. We stole moments whenever we could: a quick coffee, a hidden lunch, precious hours in cheap motel rooms. The guilt was a constant companion, a shadow that clung to me. Yet, the moments with Alex were bursts of brilliant color in my otherwise grey life. I felt alive, vibrant, and cherished. But living a double life is exhausting. The lies piled up, each one heavier than the last. I was becoming a stranger to myself, a person I didn't recognize in the mirror. The breaking point came on my daughter's 6th birthday. We had a small party at our house. Ken was grilling burgers, my parents were there, and our daughter was laughing, her face smeared with cake. It was a perfect picture of a happy family, and I felt like a complete fraud. As I watched Ken lift our daughter into his arms, a wave of profound sadness washed over me. He was a good man, a good father. He didn't deserve this. Our daughter didn't deserve this. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I told Ken everything. The confession was brutal. I watched the trust in his eyes shatter, replaced by a pain so deep it took my breath away. There were tears, accusations, questions I couldn't answer. The days that followed were a blur of grief and anger. We were living in the wreckage of our marriage. I ended things with Alex. It was a painful, tearful goodbye, but it was necessary. There was no clean way out, no path that didn't involve immense hurt. Ken and I tried counseling. We talked more in those few weeks than we had in years. We laid bare all our frustrations, our loneliness, our resentments. Slowly, painstakingly, we began to sift through the rubble. I had to confront the reasons I had strayed, the emptiness within myself that I had tried to fill with another person. It wasn't just about the lack of passion in my marriage, it was about my own loss of identity. For Ken, it was about learning to see me again, not just as a wife and mother, but as a woman with her own needs and desires. The journey was long and arduous. There were days I was sure our marriage was over, days when the anger and betrayal felt insurmountable. But we kept trying, for our daughter, and for the sliver of hope that we could find our way back to each other. It wasn't about forgiveness, not at first. It was about understanding. It was about rebuilding from the ground up, on a foundation of brutal honesty instead of polite silence. My story isn't a simple tale of infidelity. It's a story about loneliness, about losing yourself in the roles you play, and the desperate, sometimes destructive, ways we search for connection. It's a cautionary tale, but also, strangely, a story of hope. Sometimes, you have to completely destroy something to see if it's worth rebuilding. Our new beginning is fragile, uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it feels real. Thank you for listening.